ever notice how some people like just love to make those snap judgments? You know, like you tell them you're vegetarian and they just launch into this whole thing about like humans are meant to eat meat. It's like, can a person just like enjoy a veggie burger in peace?
It really is kind of wild how quickly people jump to conclusions, right?
And, you know, it's one thing when it's about like your food choices, but sometimes those snap judgments, especially when it's about someone's culture or where they're from,
Yeah.
those can be more than just annoying. They can be straight up prejudiced, even if it's disguised as a joke, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's kind of what we're diving into today. We're unpacking like why making fun of South Koreans because of North Korea is not only like insensitive, but actually just completely wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that old saying, a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. And in this case, like conflating South Korea with the North Korean regime, it shows a pretty big knowledge gap, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
And our source, they don't sugarcoat it. They come right out and say, the idea that like South Koreans should somehow be ridiculed because of the situation in North Korea is completely illogical. But to like really grasp why that logic is so flawed, I think we need to break it down a bit.
Absolutely. So like, well, South and North Korea, they share a history, right? And they share a peninsula. They've taken like vastly different paths. South Korea, you know, it's a thriving democracy. It's a global tech innovator. I mean, think about it. You've got Samsung, LG, K-pop, like the whole deal. Citizens have a voice in their government. They have like the freedom to chart their own destinies, you know. North Korea, on the other hand, it operates under a very different system. One where like the individual's voice is stifled and the flow of information is, you know, really tightly controlled.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying that all Canadians are obsessed with hockey just because it's a really popular sport there. Sure, some Canadians might be like diehard hockey fans.
Right.
But to just assume that like that's true for every single person, it ignores their, you know, individual interests and experiences.
Exactly. It ignores like the nuances and the differences. And it really highlights how absurd it is to like attribute the actions or ideologies of a government, you know, to an entire population, especially when those people have absolutely no say in that government's policies, you know.
So, okay, we can see how that logic kind of falls apart pretty quickly, right? But I bet some people listening are still thinking like, okay, but it's just a joke. Like, what's the big deal? But our source goes like way deeper than that. And this is where it gets like really interesting. They argue that these jokes, even if, you know, someone might try to brush them off as harmless, they're actually really harmful to the people they're targeting, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to really understand why, the source kind of takes us back to like a really fundamental truth about humanity.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So the source emphasizes that like, regardless of, you know, where we come from, what language we speak, what political system governs us, like we all share a common humanity. And to really drive that point home, they cite Genesis 1.27, which says, so God created man in his own image.
Yeah.
It's like this powerful reminder that reducing someone to like a stereotype or a punchline completely ignores their like inherent dignity and worth as a person.
It's like saying that someone's entire identity is like determined by their passport or like even worse, by the actions of a government that they had no say in choosing, you know?
Exactly. Like imagine being held responsible for something that you have like absolutely no control over. It's not just inaccurate. It's like deeply unfair.
Yeah, I can see how that like constant barrage of negativity, even if some people are like, oh, I'm just kidding, or it's just a joke, like I can see how that could really take a toll on someone, you know?
Absolutely. Just imagine like the cumulative effect of constantly being the butt of the joke, you know, and like feeling like your individuality and your experiences are just being like dismissed or even worse, like ridiculed.
Yeah.
That's why this goes like way beyond simple misinformation. It's about like recognizing the very real human cost of prejudice.
It's like easy to get bogged down in all the negativity, you know?
Yeah.
But our source, thankfully, like they don't just leave us hanging. They actually offer some like really practical solutions too, which I appreciate.
They do, yeah. And it really all comes down to like this simple but powerful idea, you know, choosing love over mockery.
Okay, I love that. Choosing love, obviously, sign me up. But what does that like actually look like, you know, in action? How do we move beyond just talking about the problem and actually like be part of the solution, you know?
That is such a great question. And, you know, the source actually gives us some really concrete steps we can take. Like, first and foremost, it's about actively educating ourselves about different cultures and nationalities. Because, I mean, think about it. the more we, like, actually understand about the world beyond our own little bubble,
Yeah.
the less likely we are to, you know, fall prey to those, like, harmful stereotypes.
Right, yeah. It's about, like, replacing those gaps in knowledge with, like, genuine understanding, you know?
Exactly. And it also means, like, taking a look in the mirror a little bit, you know? Like taking a hard look at our own biases, our own assumptions, because we all have them,
Oh, yeah.
whether we, like, realize it or not, right?
Yeah.
But it's by, like, acknowledging those biases and assumptions that we can actually start to, like, challenge them
Yeah.
and break free from those, like, knee-jerk reactions that can sometimes lead us down the wrong path.
Yeah, so much of this comes down to, like, self-awareness, right?
100%,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, being aware of, like, okay, what am I bringing to the table here? What are my, like, preconceived notions, and are they, like, actually accurate?
Exactly, exactly. And then, like, ultimately it comes down to, like, making a choice. You know,
Right.
like instead of choosing mockery, choosing empathy, instead of seeing a stereotype, choosing to see a human being, you know, with their own unique story, their own hopes, their own dreams, their own experiences.
It's like remembering that, like, behind every cultural difference, every, like, unfamiliar custom, there's a person, just like you said, a person just like you and me,
Yeah,
who's, like, just trying to navigate the world the best way they know how.
exactly. And, you know, the source reminds us that, like, this idea of choosing love, it's not just some, like, vague feel-good notion. You know? It's about taking those concrete actions. It's about, like, actually doing something to try to, you know, bridge those divides, to build understanding, to treat other people with the same dignity and respect that, you know, we hope they'll give us.
And on that note, you know, we've given our listeners, like, a lot to think about today, a lot to, like, chew on.
Yeah.
So as you head back out into the world today, you know, remember, like, a little laughter's great,
Yeah,
but not at the expense of someone else's humanity.
that's right.
You know, choose understanding,
Choose empathy.
choose love, because at the end of the day, like, we are all in this together.
We are. Couldn't have said it better myself.